Welcome to African Dream Motivation. Once upon a time, Africa was the land of dreams which attracted many countries from all over the world. Discovering the unique and rich culture of the land, the decision to trade with the black man came to mind. They took so many resources but deceivingly exchanged them with things of little value but unknown to the black man. This was an overly profitable business opportunity, so they returned in their numbers to enrich themselves. It was a golden haven for them, and gradually their intentions began drifting from trading to staying. They started buying slaves and exported them to their homeland. From 1525 to 1866, over 12.5 million men, women, and children were taken as slaves, separated from their loved ones forcefully. Over 1.8 million of them died while on transit, and a lot more were killed for rebelling and attempting to escape. Surviving slaves worked so hard mostly on plantations and other difficult jobs without any wage or reverence to their hard work. So while African human and natural resources were taken freely or at the cheapest possible price, the others worked hard to build what we admire today in the Western world. They saw slaves as nothing more but assets, and anyone who stood between slavery was attacked and sometimes assassinated. Abraham Lincoln was one of such men who stood behind the idea that slavery had to be abolished. He fought for the freedom of the black man, and on 14th April 1965, he was assassinated at Ford's Theater, seated in front of his wife while enjoying a play. The most important thing was that the way of freedom for the black man in America was wide open, and it was just a matter of time. In Africa, Westerners who were enjoying the rich resources decided to stay and then rule the land. The idea was simple. He who controls the land controls the people, and he who controls the people controls the world. It was an unending battle of resistance coupled with numerous revolutions that took centuries. Fighting against a stronger opposition was very daring. This didn't deter our ancestors. They fought as hard as they could, but after a long struggle and a lot of bloodshed, many African kingdoms were overpowered. Countries like Great Britain, France, Portugal, Belgium, and many others took over most African countries and made them their colonies. They raided most African palaces and took away precious artefacts which had been symbols of African culture for many years. Today, over 90% of sub-Saharan African artifacts are held in museums in Europe and America. And the question is, when will the stolen pride of Africa be returned? Or better still, will they ever be returned? The moment the shoulders of Africa was broken, mediocrity began setting in. The rights of the black man became irrelevant in his own land, and gradually children were born to believe that they were nothing but subjects to their fellow human beings. Some saw them as gods, and to a few, the African dream was still alive, and gradually a new crop of believers began showing up. In the 20th century, the new generation of Africans were very optimistic about life and began campaigning to put power where it belonged. While the likes of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King fought for the right and freedom of the black man in the United States, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, Haile Selassie, Nelson Mandela, and other Africanists rose up to fight for independence of Africa. Many leaders were assassinated, and a lot more were exiled and imprisoned for standing up to the white supremacists. After almost a century, all African countries gained independence and became free once more. At least that's what we thought. After Belgium, United States, and Britain worked together to assassinate Patrice Lumumba, We thought that was enough. Then, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated at the back corridor of his hotel room simply because he stood for his race. It was obvious that freedom was overrated. In 1966, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, and guess what? There was a CIA office in Accra, Ghana, and it was very clear that they had a hand in the bloodiest coup in the history of Ghana. According to the intelligence document released by the United States Department of State's Office of the Historian, Nkrumah was doing more to undermine the US government's interest than any other black African. The list goes on and on. One thing was for sure, they were coming back, but as to how or when, it wasn't clear. Cast your mind back to slavery, and you will realize that for every slave that was bought, there was a middleman, a black man who betrayed his motherland. Look deep into it, and you'll come to understand that greedy African leaders sold their people off for wealth. And to Patrice Lumumba and Thomas Sankara's assassination, their fellow Africans plotted and made sure they were killed just for money and power. Again, check how Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown. His most trusted friends who escorted him to the airport and waved him goodbye were behind the power snatching. It all boils down to our mentality and how easy it is for our loyalty to be bought. As the famous African proverb says, if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. As Benjamin Borombo puts it, each time I want to fight for African rights, I use only one hand, because the other hand is busy trying to keep away Africans who are fighting me. It's about time we unite as people and push the African race forward. We have contributed significantly to what America and Europe are today. We have everything we need to make Africa the greatest continent in the world. We have gold, diamond, timber, bauxite, cobalt, manganese, cocoa, and so many more. In fact, after all the scrupulous exploitations over the past centuries, Africa still holds 30% of the world's resources. It is up to you and me to make Africa the land of dreams that our ancestors toiled their blood for. It is wrong to accept the poverty you see around. It is wrong to have the mentality that you cannot be successful in life. Never accept that. Everything you see and enjoy was made by people who are no smarter than you. Change doesn't occur on a silver platter. It is hard and so challenging that many people had to give up even before they began. Kwame Nkrumah once said that the forces that unite us are intrinsic and greater than the superimposed influences that keep us apart. It is not a debate about which government is the best or worst. It is about all of us as people coming together, putting aside all selfishness and greed to work selflessly to make Africa great. You are capable. Never give up. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, kindly like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so that you don't miss any new video we upload.